Have you ever interviewed a billionaire? Have you been to Prince Edward Island? The unsexy side of real estate investing. All that and more in this week's Truth About Real Estate Investing show for Canadians. I'm your host, Erwin Cito, and I'm a big believer in education. Free education is even nice too, because everyone wants a good return on investment of their time and money. And this show is about exploring truths based on strategies, tips, tricks, and experiences to help listeners build successful investment portfolios so they may live more fulfilling lives. I'd love nothing more than that for my 17 listeners of this show. And the show is like a buffet. We have guests from all parts of the spectrum, as in like investment spectrum, to share their journeys in investing. So you, the listener, can pick out what you want to apply to your own practice to optimize returns, reduce risk for happy retirement, or to fund those things that are important to you, like fantastic travel, charity, helping out the kids with tuition or housing costs. This past weekend, I hosted last weekend, a weekend ago, I hosted a bunch of family and friends at my house for my mom's birthday. I cooked my specialty, brisket, smoked it and baked it for 10 hours to perfect melt in your mouth consistency. No steak knives needed. Anyone who knows me knows I love to listen and talk about real estate investing, real estate in general. One of my guests is an old family friend that lives in the most expensive neighborhood in all of Canada, West Vancouver. It was interesting to hear her own perspective on the cost of sending kids to university and crazy rents. And she lives in a house, so it's an insane amount of money what her house is worth. And for anyone to get into that market, again, it's West Vancouver. It's the most expensive market at least it's the least affordable city in all of Canada, at last check. Anyways, so again, she sends her kids to university in Toronto, so she knows how crazy expensive rents are in Toronto for her kids. Now, her brother is the polar opposite. He lives in Minnesota. His name is Philip, and according to my friend Brenda, she says Philip says it doesn't matter how successful one is in Minnesota because everyone there can afford a house because it's that affordable. What a tale of two cities, and just reinforces my pursuit for affordability and cash flow for my own portfolio and, of course, the USA. Before we talk more about the USA, how great is Canada? I just returned from a leadership conference hosted by EO Canada, Entrepreneurs Organization Canada in Charlottetown, PEI. The event was absolutely epic. Our keynote speaker was Robert E. Grant. For some of you, it's probably a big deal. I had no idea who he was. So FYI, he's a billionaire. He stayed the entire conference with us, including the excursions and dinners with us. So we each had a chance to engage with him in a very small setting. My mind was absolutely blown, and my work is cut out for me as Robert agreed to come on this little podcast. Not this little podcast, it's another podcast I'm working for, but I will share it on this podcast as well. It'll be a nice warm up as Robert is preparing to go on Joe Rogan's podcast shortly after. Now, Robert is no regular billionaire either. Not that I've met many, if any, and will be the first on the show. Yeah. His businesses are altruistic. While we were at the summit, Robert showed me on his Instagram how his company rang the bell, which is the opening ceremony at the NASDAQ. I told him I couldn't believe he missed such a momentous event. This company he founded owns the majority of, with a market capitalization of over $1 billion. Robert replied, "Oh no, it's okay. I was there for the opening ceremony earlier this year." And then he proceeds to scroll down his Instagram and show me when he was front and center doing the opening bell ceremony at the NASDAQ. So that's the same stock exchange that is home to Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, Google, Nvidia, Netflix, Tesla, etc. And then I went on to hear Robert's talk. He mentioned limiting beliefs. Obviously, this guy doesn't have many of them because he's just accomplished so much. And I didn't believe he'd come on my podcast, so I didn't ask him. But after hearing that, like his opinion of not having limited beliefs, I went ahead and asked him at the break, to which he said yes. Holy cow, Batman, I'm going to interview a billionaire who's the nicest guy. He's got genius level IQ. He's a polymath, meaning he has expertise in multiple unrelated fields, like Leonardo da Vinci. So keep an eye out for that episode. Now, did I mention how much I like Canada? If you've been to PEI, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Everything there costs less. That's nice. People there are polite. The city's clean. I eat more than one lobster per day on average because it's local and it's cheaper than buying it here. The Gulf and waterfront there is beautiful, and I met a lovely couple from Nashville, Tennessee, who said they may make PEI their vacation destination every summer. Uh, Now, this was the Entrepreneurs Leadership Summit too, and from speaking to others, so these were Canadians from all over the country. I met folks in Winnipeg, Vancouver, Quebec City, of course, Toronto, my own chapter, a lot of folks from Ottawa, and no one is really happy about the direction of this country. And anyone who wanted to talk about real estate, I happily obliged them about how my own journey of investing in the USA, how much better the landlord rights are, cash flow opportunities are down there. And there's a good number of people interested in real estate investing, so they were happy to hear about it and interested in learning more. And I don't see who's surprised here, because I don't see how any everyday investor chooses a condo or duplex in this country after seeing what we have to offer in the USA. I was speaking to a past client of mine who is a home inspector just today, who lives in Mississauga, and he was recounting to me about all the flooding that happened recently in his own neighborhood. The Toronto Star reports the damage at $1 billion. When I told him how investing in the US and how we're investing in the USA, we're buying properties with no basements, to which he said he'd never want a house with a basement ever again. Too many risks and problems, which is what I've been saying this whole time. Who would invest in a basement apartment when tenants have all the rights? Flooding and insurance risks are greater than ever, and the cost to renovate a basement into an apartment could buy you 1 to 3 houses in the USA, and where the investment would be much more passive in the States, that is. The writing's on the wall, and new opportunities to invest in the USA is a dream come true for many Canadian real estate investors like myself. If you'd like to learn more about how a Canadian may invest in the USA, simply go to my website, www.truthaboutrealestateinvesting.ca, and sign up for any of the free reports I have there, and attend a future training webinar that I'm having one this week. Unfortunately, this episode will come out before you have a chance to sign up for that one, but we'll probably have one in the near future as well. Again, I believe education should be free, so I'm doing my part to make that a reality. On to this week's show. We have Meghan Hubner, who is a real estate business consultant who helps investors run their portfolios like a business. After a 12-year career in medical and pharmaceutical sales, where she achieved her goals, she decided to transition out to entrepreneurship, using her degree in entrepreneurship to work with various businesses in real estate. After about 4 years, she started focusing on real estate investors, helping them with accounting, finance, operations, and building systems to stabilize and grow their businesses. Meghan is also an experienced real estate investor herself, having built a portfolio in British Columbia across different strategies as well. She's also the co-host of the Real Estate Reliance Summit, along with fellow dynamic investors Elizabeth, Kelly, and Victoria Cluney, friends of this show. For more information and to register for the Real Estate Resilience Summit, go to realestateresilience.ca. But don't delay, the all virtual conference is Saturday and Sunday, September 28th, 29th. Cherry and I, my wife and I, are proud sponsors, and Cher and I are proud to be sponsoring quality educational content providers at affordable prices by Elizabeth, Victoria, and this week's guest, Meghan Hubner. Without further ado, I give you Meghan Hubner. Hi, Meghan. What's keeping you busy these days?
I've got a lot of things going on right now. We are packing up. We are heading to Ohio. We're looking at real estate investing. We're going to do some homeschooling this year. We have a lot of things on the go right now, and it is so fun.
Oh my God. That might take the record for busy. Homeschooling 2 kids, nonetheless.
Well, the little one is only 2.5, so she doesn't require a lot. I will get some support with this without a doubt, but yeah, it's going to be an adventure and a half.
And you're not from Ontario. You're moving a long way.
That's right. I am from British Columbia. I live full-time in Whistler, BC, and we are driving out to Ohio in the middle of September here with our family. We sold our cars recently. We packed everything up, put long-term tenants in our place for a few months, and bought a truck and trailer, and we're getting ready.
All right, that's a mouthful. For those who don't know who you are, please tell us a bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So my name's Megan. I live in British Columbia, as I mentioned earlier. I spent 12 years in medical and pharmaceutical sales. And in 2019, I thought, gosh, there's got to be something greater out there for me. I reached the pinnacle of my career. I was a regional sales manager selling in the hospitals. It was what I had set out to do. And I had this pull on my heartstrings that there was something else bigger out there. And I felt like I could make a greater impact if I started working with small business owners. And I actually walked away from my dream job in 2019
Making a
kind of
lot of
shaking my
money, I would
head.
imagine.
I was doing well. We were doing great. We both had corporate careers and jobs, and we thought, you know what, I think there's another path out there for us. And
Mhm.
it's funny because I actually have a degree in entrepreneurship. And when I left the corporate world and went back to entrepreneurship, I felt like I was going home. I just felt like I reclaimed a piece of myself that had been missing for a really long time. And I started working with multiple different business owners, everything from high-end golf apparel to health and fitness and wellness and underwear and different brands.
Mhm.
And I just knew that consulting was where I needed to be.
Mhm.
But I'd always had a passion for real estate. And then I kind of started to uncover what was happening a little bit more in the real estate world
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
that businesses were growing really fast and people were lacking the clarity of how to actually run their portfolio as a business. And so I started about 4 years ago, really focusing in on working with real estate investors.
Fantastic.
Mhm.
Care to name drop? Anyone we
I don't know
know?
if I want to, I don't want to know if I want to name drop investors, but because
Or
they
at
come
least
to
tell
me
us something
for
about
a
their
variety of,
businesses. Are they in
right?
like
Yeah,
Airbnb
anyone,
listers? Are they're developers in Edmonton?
multiple boutique developers, long-term rentals, short-term rentals, property management companies,
Hmm.
private lending companies. Yeah, lots of different areas kind of all woven into real estate.
Hmm.
And people usually come to me with the fact that, I have a business, it's thriving, it's doing well, but
Hmm.
in order to get to the next level, I need to start organizing it as a business. And
Hmm.
so what we do is we really take a look at like what's happening in your accounting finance practices, what's going on with your sales and marketing. Do you understand your human resources? Do you have KPIs? Do you have measures of success in place? And then we take a look at operations. Do you have a CRM, a project management software? Where can we help you with your business to stabilize things and then really prepare for growth and clean up the back end?
I think
Mhm.
it's partly because we're all victims of our success. I was literally speaking to a client who held a property for well over 10 years, a rental property, single family home, really,
Yeah.
really, really simple in the GTA. And we helped her sell it.
Hmm.
And she walks away with a capital gain of over $500,000. Now, for an investor getting that property today, they have no one hope in hell making that thing work, unless they do
Yeah.
something invasive like a development, some sort of repositioning, basement suiting. Even with basement suiting and a garden suiting, we're talking like $500,000 of capital you have to shell out. Versus my
Yeah. I mean,
client
it's the
probably put
same
it down a
thing.
down payment of like 40,000.
I know, I know. I mean, we were lucky and fortunate to get into real estate. When did I buy my first place? Like 15 years ago in British Columbia, right? When things were still attainable and stuff. But
Mhm.
it's tough in BC right now for sure, without a doubt. Prices are wild and things.
What,
Mhm.
what's your real estate investment journey been like? What was how did you get
I think
started?
I probably got to that four units and kind of hit that level of like I don't really know where to get next. So I bought my first unit at 29, put all my money into it, and then a year later my now husband and I bought our house in the suburbs, and then I crunched numbers for the next 3 years and worked really hard to figure out how I could buy a vacation rental in Whistler, bought a vacation property in Whistler.
Oh my
And then
God.
we knew at one point in time that we wanted to actually move up to Whistler and live full time. So we moved from the city to Whistler. And so I sold my downtown condo, the first one I bought, and I upgraded to a townhouse in Whistler as well. So we now had those couple properties. And then we did a joint venture on the island with some friends where we have a 2.5 acre property on Vancouver Island that we run as an Airbnb. We still have today. And so I went through all these steps and I didn't even think, and this is always embarrassing for me to say, but I didn't even think to Google how to become a real estate investor because I didn't even know it was an entire industry. I just knew that I wanted to buy real estate. I just knew that I needed to learn how to crunch numbers. And those are all the steps that I went through. It wasn't until actually during COVID, we were in our bubble, we were in lockdown, we were with some people around the table, and there was a new young woman there. And she said, "Oh, yeah, my dad's a real estate investor." And my ears perked up. And I was like, "Oh, tell me more. I want to know about this industry." And that's really where I started to really dive deeper into that.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, for the listeners who aren't from business backgrounds, and I think that's often missing from the introduction of real estate investing. Because when you hear
Yeah,
investing, it's supposed to be passive. To me, investing means passive. Like
yeah.
if I'm looking at buying nutrient stock, I buy the stock and I do nothing, right? And I think
That's
it's a
literally
mistake
passive.
that novice investors make is that they think they don't have to do anything. They don't
Yeah,
think
you buy
about what
one
a back
property,
office is.
you just bought a business. Right. And, I talk to investors every single week that are really keen to grow and scale their portfolios.
Mhm,
And, a lot of times I say, like, let's just build the framework first.
mhm,
Okay. Like, what are you doing for accounting practices? Do you have
mhm,
QuickBooks set up? Do you
mhm,
have a bank account for each property? Are you routing? Do you know what your fixed costs are? Do you know what your variable costs are? Do
mhm,
you know how much it costs to run your business, not including your properties?
mhm,
And we go through all that first, and then we sort of say, okay, now that you've understand your finances and things, do we have any money to spend on marketing? Do we need a website? Do you need branding? What are you actually marketing? Are you looking
mhm,
for private investors? Are you looking for joint venture partners? And we really take it through, like, what's the sales and marketing that you're really
mhm,
focusing on?
mhm,
And then we say, okay, who's going to help you with this? Do you have a VA? Do you have an assistant? Have you hired a bookkeeping team? Like, you are the people that are going to help support you get to those next goals. And
mhm,
so we take a look at job descriptions and your, high value tasks versus low value tasks. Where can
mhm,
you start outsourcing? How do you hire? When do you hire? And then we really dive into operations. So do you have a project management software that you're using? If you're
mhm,
doing, flips, or if you're doing repeat tasks like development projects and things,
mhm.
are you just checking the boxes every single time? Or are you going back to the drawing board on every project and starting
Right,
from zero
right.
again? So we do a lot of that too. Operations is really, real estate operations is very heavy, until you kind of get up and running and have that turnkey system. And you hear about these people that are growing and scaling quickly and things, but they should be going through the process in the same manner every single time. It creates efficiencies that way.
That was a mouthful.
Yeah.
Now for the beginners benefit. So like my portfolio was very lazy at 10 plus properties. It was really just buy
Yeah.
and hold, renovate,
Yeah.
one property at a time. We didn't know it wasn't that complicated in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now speak to who do you think needs what you're talking to? Like to basically have a business plan and like
Yeah.
consider marketing budgets. What kind of who is that investor? Which is
I
really a business
encourage,
owner.
yeah, who is the business? I encourage people to get started as early as like 3 to 5 properties. If you have 3 to 5 properties, you have a business. You should be running it as that.
Mhm.
And so I would say start the earlier the better, because if you come to me at 35 properties, man, it's a lot to clean up.
Yeah, if they haven't started, they're probably ready to fail.
Yeah,
Wait, is
if
that
you
not the point they're
haven't,
coming to you at? Are they?
no, like I don't want to, I don't want to see you fail. I want to see you thrive. So I say get these things done early. If you've got 3 properties, you should be having these done. You should know what your fixed costs are, your
Mhm.
variable costs, how much it costs. Like, you should have your bank accounts routed properly, like even on 3 properties.
And I'll say that's the commonality between all the folks who are in the paper and all over social media for having very public failures is
Yeah,
I don't think even bookkeeping was done properly, let alone
100%.
anyone knew what the numbers were.
Yep.
Because even to me as an outsider looking in, like I saw deals and they don't pencil is the term. They don't make
Yeah.
sense. I can't believe
They,
people put money into them.
Yeah, I'm to be honest, often shocked at the decision-making process as well, of saying, yeah, we're going to stay heavily invest in a tertiary market, or yeah, we're going to take on this, this, and this, without
Hmm.
actually trying one model first
Hmm.
before you really scale that model. So I'm always curious about what goes into the decision-making
Hmm.
process, or the buy box, if you would.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's it's often easy to see people fail when they grow too fast like that.
And then yeah, and then just lack of experience. Like you mentioned tertiary market, which would be like third level.
Yeah.
So what would Whistler be? Just I want to use a use a BC analogy.
Yeah.
So Vancouver would be
Well,
primary, right?
yeah. Technically it's a secondary market, but it's also unusual in the fact that it's a international destination. So we
Oh
don't
yeah,
just have local buyers, right? So it is kind of a primary market. If you're looking for a resort
true.
destination in British
Yeah,
Columbia, it's
recreation absolutely
primary,
got to be primary.
number one.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of a unique situation in that area. The market there has done crazy things like
right.
the rest of Canada has, but we're not talking about a $400. It didn't start as a $400,000 home. It started as like a $900,000 home. And so now, yeah,
Hmm.
property there is wild.
It's just funny because I did have to Google it. What comes after tertiary? Because I find so many people use tertiary incorrectly. People have been
Mm.
saying Timmins, Ontario is a tertiary market. And Timmins to me is famous because, other than Shania Twain, is because it used to own the title of being the most affordable city in Ontario, which to me means no
Oh,
one wants to go there.
that's a good way to look at it.
So is it quaternary? Is it quinary? Is it centenary? Septenary?
I would lump it as a submarket. I don't even think it gets a title, just a submarket
Right.
of wherever.
And
But
again,
yeah,
I think it's a lack of people's. Again, I think some people are just deliberately misrepresenting, and some people just not being able to do the math.
yeah, and I do think that, a lot of times just that with that growth comes the pain of really having to take the time. As entrepreneurs, I see people being so busy all the time, and it's the heavy grunt work that people don't want to do that gets left behind.
Hmm, fascinating. No, ChatGPT disagrees with me. They think it is tertiary. Anyways, this is the Truth by Real Estate Investing show, so I'm happy for people to fact check me and to fact check myself.
Yeah.
I may disagree with ChatGPT, but that's okay. They're supposed to be smarter than I am.
Yeah,
Yeah. So tell me more about, tell me about your own journey now.
sure.
How far is this drive from
Oh, I
BC
think
to
it's like
Ohio?
4,000 kilometers or something like that. We're forecasting it's going to take us about 8 or 9 days because we've got young kids too, so we can't be trucking 12 hours a day.
That's yeah,
So,
that's almost the width of a Canada, 4,000
well, it's
kilometers.
only 7 hours from south of London, Ontario. So we're pretty much driving across. So yeah, so we are in the process right now. My family and I, like I said, have sold our vehicles. We bought a truck and trailer. We are just
Hmm.
prepping that up this weekend. We are
Hmm.
going to head out mid-September,
Hmm.
driving across the country, heading to Cincinnati, Ohio, and surrounding areas. My husband likes the Cincinnati market. He thinks it's a great spot to base ourselves out of, and we'll go and we'll check it out. It's difficult in our market in Whistler. It's not an area that we have invested there before, and we are done with our investing in Whistler right now. And so we needed to go to some other location, and we could sit and be really comfortable for this next year. Our children were registered at school. We had it all mapped out and planned, or we could get uncomfortable and actually make some big changes. And so we decided that this is the time that we were ready to go all in. I've had this RV trip in the back of my mind for about 5 years, and it just seemed like the timing was right.
Is
So
Ohio nice? I don't know much about it. I've been to Cleveland.
apparently Cleveland's not super nice, but apparently Cincinnati is supposed to be relatively nice. There's a green belt there. There's some mountain biking and things. I mean, it's going to be nothing in comparison to Whistler. But yeah, we're gonna go to check it out, and if we don't like it, we'll change, we'll move. But from all the research that my husband has done, he's the one who did all that due diligence. The prices are good, the rents are good.
Mhm.
There's great areas of opportunity in there, in and around there.
Tell me more about the decision for Cincinnati, Ohio. How did you arrive there?
Some good markets in their surrounding area. There's some new EV plants going in. The area is not right for appreciation. I mean, coming from BC, we have definitely a skewed landscape of what appreciation is supposed to look
Generally, I
like.
find
But
Canadians in general do have a skewed idea of what appreciation is like.
yeah, so there's some decent appreciation there. Some good development as well. It's a good, relatively safe city. Likes the market dynamics. The rent rates are good. Things like that.
Fabulous.
We thought we'd go and give it a try.
Right. And again, this is a journey. If it doesn't
This
work
is a
out, you can
journey.
move on.
$100.
You really can just pick up and keep going.
We can literally just leave the RV park and go to the next destination. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. And I think that just having that mindset of doing those types of things, I've had a lot of commentary, of course, in making this decision so quickly.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I've had everything from, is that safe? Should should you actually do that? I don't know if you want to invest in the US market. Isn't real estate risky? To should we be doing that too? Right? So there's so many, everyone has such a different perspective, like different risk tolerances and things like that. And so, yeah, that's my feeling is if we don't end up liking or the market doesn't end up being as good as we forecasted it to, then
Hmm.
we leave and we
Hmm.
go somewhere else. Hmm.
It's interesting because I have these conversations all the time as well. Like my DMs and comments or on my social posts are always filled with. Usually, people are just more inquisitive about the states.
Yeah.
I've yet to have anyone full on debate me that diversifying in the states Yeah, pretty much no one's wants to debate me on that. That diversifying the states makes sense.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's probably because you're too good at debating.
No, I think, I think the writing's on the wall. Right. I
Yeah.
literally shared on my Instagram just yesterday. American wealth has grown. So I think the dates were between from 2010 to 2023. Americans' wealth has grown 162%. And then, oh, let me bring it up because I don't want to get it wrong. Oh, no, let me bring it up. I don't want to get it wrong because these things, it just keeps coming up where the Americans are beating us on almost everything. Okay, so hang on. So percentage change in wealth from 2010 to
Hmm.
2023 in the US has gone up 121%. Canadians, Canada has gone up 62%,
Okay.
right? Well,
Yep.
you've held real estate. You did well.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But
Definitely.
we've done half as well as the Americans.
Yeah.
And then for people who like to poo-poo on the US dollar or think that the dollar's expensive or whatever, the US economy is bad, I think I saw another statistic where the US dollar has been the number one investment currency 6 of the last 10 years, right?
Yeah, I believe it.
All right, so I don't know who wants to art. So yeah, and, and at the end of the day, no one wants to debate me on this topic. That diversifying the states
Well,
makes complete sense.
yeah, I mean, I take a look at what we could accomplish in Canada, or I could take a look at what we could accomplish in the US. And the more I learn about the
Yes.
US market,
Yeah.
because I do work with a lot of US investors right now too, and just have access to different strategies they're utilizing.
Hmm.
Um, I cannot believe how much more opportunity that I'm seeing. Like I am shocked. You're quite a few months ahead of research ahead of me. So you're probably like sitting there doing a happy dance, but I cannot believe every month that I learn more about the layers of what we can do down there
Hmm.
versus here. I'm shocked.
And I think, yeah, I'm not sure why a lot of Canadians aren't so familiar with what's going on in the States. I think part of it is, first of all, when we all became real estate investors, we all started that journey on our own. Like,
Hmm.
because no one out there in the media or has big advertising campaign makes money selling real estate,
Yeah.
right? So the folks who sell mutual funds, the banks, the financial advisors are not promoting real estate investing, right? Because they can't
Hmm.
make money selling it. Now, in
Yeah.
turn, pretty much no one in Canada makes money selling US investment property,
Hmm.
right? Realtors, mortgage folks, they generally don't do it. There's a very small number of us,
Yeah.
very, very, very small number of us. Uh, so I think that's maybe why it's not out there about how different it is in the States. So let's use an example from your own context. What
Yeah.
would be like an everyday investment where you are right now for a regular mom and pop investor to get into?
In BC, I think the most successful client I have is a boutique developing firm in downtown Vancouver.
Right, but that's not a mom and
Um,
pop investor. What is
but
someone with a nine to
well,
five and two young kids?
they started as a mom and pop though,
Yeah,
right? They
yeah.
started there. Um, yeah, in BC, I don't see I see the mom and pop moving to Alberta is what I see. And then buying a single
Yeah,
family home and turning
yeah.
it into a legal basement suite. That's what I see.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about Calgary, I think the average price in Calgary is about 600,000 now.
Yeah, Calgary's a little bit too high for that strategy right now, but
Right,
Edmonton, you can find that strategy still.
right. So we're probably 400 or 500 grand for a house.
You're gonna be anywhere from 350 to 450 on the house, and then the
Hmm.
work to suite the basement.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Hmm.
So that'd be like an accessible investment for an everyday investor in
100%.
Canada, right?
Yep.
Now, what kind of deals are you looking to do when you're in Cincinnati, Ohio?
We're looking for single family. We are interested in looking into the Section 8 rentals as well.
Nice.
Um, heard a lot of success around that strategy. I like it a lot. And for those Canadian listeners that aren't familiar with Section 8, is a government funded program. The
Hmm.
average Section 8 renter actually stays in their property from 7 to 9 years, versus the average renter is usually 1 to 2 years in a traditional setting. And the
Hmm.
average Section 8 resident actually takes about a 2 year application process to get in. So once they get in, they don't want to mess it up, and they
Hmm.
are relatively good tenants.
Hmm.
Yes, you deal with a little bit of a different demographic that might not be your ideal tenant profile, but the government is paying that rent for you every month.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And I know the the BC or Ontario investors like, oh, you don't want them to stay because you need
You can't
turnover so
raise
you
the
can raise
rents.
rents, right? Megan, what are you talking about? This is a terrible
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to get to is there's no rent control.
Yes, exactly. No rent control. And yeah, we need to I mean, I was listening to a podcast yesterday or no, actually I was on a sales call yesterday, and the client that I was speaking with was saying that their Section 8 rentals were actually paying about 13% above market rent. That sounds good to me.
hmm And I imagine you're going to hire a manager, right? And you're not going to
Oh
self-manage
yeah,
these.
absolutely. We will not self-manage at all. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We will hire property management. We'll hire an entire team. I mean, that's the US expansion and things. We have a team in Edmonton. We are developing there as well in Edmonton right now.
hmm
And so we have a team, same thing, a team of people that are helping support us in all of this. Yeah, without a doubt.
Fabulous. Now, for like okay, so can you give us some high level numbers for Cincinnati, Ohio property you'd be looking at? Let's start with the Section 8. What would it cost to buy it? What would the renovations be? What would the rent be?
Yeah, we've looked at anything from an $89,000 duplex that needs about $25,000 of work and is going to rent for probably, let me just think of the triplex that we looked at recently. The triplex to buy was in a secondary market to Cincinnati. It was $90,000 to buy. It needed about $25,000 of work. And the rental income was forecasted to be 501 unit, 801 unit, and 700 in the other unit.
All right, so 2K.
Yep.
Yeah, rents. Plus any utilities?
Utilities were paid. They were paying.
All of them.
Yeah, on that one, I think they were.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think most Canadians have context for this and how much more affordable it is.
How much more affordable it is. Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, just to have anything in the low 100s to purchase is like
Mhm.
staggering for Canadians.
And then how would
Yeah.
you finance these deals?
We would
All
finance
cash?
through well, we could do cash. We could also do DSCR loans. There's a lot of different funding opportunities down there. We just got approved for kind of like a loan, which is more like a short-term loan. Yeah, so lots of different options.
What are you expecting for your long-term financing to look like?
Long-term financing, we're going to start with DSCR loans, and we're going to take a look at some subject to properties as well.
All right, we're getting complicated.
Yeah, let's not get too complicated.
Do you know the term? What kind of terms you're going to get on DSCR? So debt service coverage ratio, folks.
I don't know on that one yet. No, we haven't gotten any paperwork back on that as of yet.
Super cool. We're actually seeing some of our clients are getting quotes in the high sevens.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm gonna dig. I'm actually trying to dig into some of my friends if we can get 15-year terms as well, because the 15-year term mortgage pay is a lot less interest than a 30-year. Uh,
absolutely.
since my plan is to get a new mortgage in about 2-3 years, anyways, why would I? I
Okay.
don't need a 30-year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Okay. High sevens. You said high sevens or low sevens?
I have a text from a client who got quoted high seven for a refi.
Okay.
I'm just scrolling through my text to look for it.
Yeah.
High seven as in 799, but that was a few weeks ago.
Okay.
I know rates are on their way down, and we're going
Yeah.
to see a rate cut probably in 2 weeks as well. So
hmm
yeah, so 799 is technically high seven,
Yeah. It is pretty
but
high seven, I
yeah.
say. That
Uh,
qualifies.
but again, that was about a month ago, so
Okay.
likely that was actually early August. So likely it's lower now, and it'll
Yeah.
be lower in 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
and we're in the middle of a rate cutting cycle in the states as
Yeah.
well as here.
hmm
Do you want to explain what subject two is?
I mean, you probably have more experience to it than I do because I think you've been through the process.
Yeah. Okay. So my experience, it seems it varies, but in my experience, it is where the investor takes title, but the seller remains on mortgage, and
Mhm.
essentially the investor will make payments directly on behalf of the seller.
Mhm.
So for any investor listening to this knows well, I'm naturally an empathetic person. So if
Mhm.
someone offered that to me, like, well, here, let me offer to you, Megan, I'm gonna buy your house. I'm gonna take title, but you're gonna hold the mortgage, and I'm gonna make the mortgage payments on your behalf. How's that sound? Would you do
And
it?
that means that, well, it's for me, that means like a lot of these owners are in a point of desperation, right? Where they don't have any other options. They don't have the funds to pay
Yeah,
the mortgage. So yes, it's a better option for me at that point in time. Yeah.
could be, but I think for most people, at least people that I'm normally talking to, they can just sell the house pretty quickly.
Mm.
Like
Hmm.
most people I deal with, like my own, like the 4 houses I sold this year, I sold in an average of 22 days.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Would you think that I would accept those terms?
Yeah, no, you probably would not. But I do feel that because you're so heavily ingrained in real estate, you know so many different
Mhm,
strategies where the
mhm.
average person doesn't have any clue to all these different strategies of what's available to them.
Oh, absolutely. I'm actually going to
Yeah.
Google real estate, Cincinnati, Ohio real estate days on market, see how fast I can get that.
Mhm.
Because again, a Canadian's context real estate is very different than an American's context. Like for example, Phoenix, Arizona, which is a market I've been monitoring closely.
Yeah.
Days on market for a single family house is like over 50, right?
Yeah.
I'm in Hamilton. I think our average days on market is 26 days.
Yep.
Would
Yeah.
you
I
rather live
mean,
in Hamilton or Phoenix?
yeah. It depends on what season you're in. Summer, I don't want to be in Phoenix. It's too hot.
So median days on market according to Redfin is
Hmm.
42 days
Yep.
for Cincinnati, Ohio. So again,
Yep.
context, folks. If you're in a major center in Canada, I'm sure it's a lot less than that. My point
Hmm.
is that in a softer market, more creative strategies can work better, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I mean, we're invested in the Mexican market too. Days on market average, probably 525. Yeah.
Year and a half.
Yeah. I'm not joking.
maybe for another time we can talk about the business case for how you got into Mexico. But you're gonna be fine, right?
We're
We
going
were
to be
talking.
totally fine. We had enough of a buffer that we are totally fine.
Right.
We are totally fine. Yeah, without a doubt.
It's going close to plan, somewhat close to plan. 500,
The
500 something
the
days on market.
completion of the project was significantly over plan. Um, it was a really unique learning opportunity because
Hmm.
the building is so different there. So we take things down to the studs in Canada. Well, they
Hmm.
take things down to the concrete in
Hmm.
Mexico. Like the
Hmm.
building is everything is so different. They say that they're coming to put in beams on your property. There's actually a welder in the back hand making the rebar beam that is then going to be poured with concrete. Like it is a completely different experience. We learned a ton. We did think that we were maybe potentially going to do a couple properties because
Hmm.
there's so many dilapidated properties that do need some updating,
Hmm.
and the margins are quite good. But just the time on market is just it's so slow. So we will not
Right.
be doing another project down there right now. We do have our house listed for sale. It is fully completed as of now, and yeah, we're waiting for a great buyer, probably a US buyer, to be honest,
Hmm.
that is leaving the US and moving to a more affordable market. And they can
Hmm.
buy a completely renovated house downtown in the downtown core for 450,000 US dollars.
Denton what city?
It's a city called Querétaro, which is just about 2 million people.
I'm not going to
It's
try to spell that, but wow, two
yeah,
million people.
it's huge. I mean, it is a thriving, booming city. You can go to IKEA, you can go to Costco, you can go to Sam's Club. Like it's got all the normal amenities that you
How
would
do you
think
spell
of in
that?
a large. It's Queretaro.
Santiago de Quer.
Yeah, Santiago do Querétaro.
Let's gonna do a quick screen share.
Yeah,
Listeners, we're on Zoom, and so we're able to do these things. Let's back this
it's
up.
about 2.5 hours northwest of Mexico City.
Interesting.
Yeah, big, beautiful city.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm ignorant on Mexico, but I imagine there's a good number of cities that are 2 million plus.
Oh yeah, yeah. Absolutely. So it's the second safest city in Mexico.
Oh, and that's
Big
important.
yeah. big sprawling city, tons of development and growth moving from there. Following COVID, a lot of people moved from Mexico City to that town as well, just to get out of the bigger city. And we actually spent a year there. So when we started this project in Mexico, we were actually living there at the time.
Hmm. Okay, we don't have any. We've had only a small number of Mexico investors on the show. What is the legal title like?
You're probably thinking of the legal title on the beach properties, and I believe it's 100, I can't remember what it is, 100 kilometers from the beach line. You can't actually technically own. It's kind of like a lease land,
Hmm.
and that's probably what you're referring to. But we hold legal title there.
Okay, and it's
Yeah.
simple to understand title system.
I would actually say that the due diligence that's done in the purchasing process in Mexico is actually better than in Canada. Like
Fantastic.
was it was done so well. Everyone is there, everyone is signing together. It's a very long, drawn out process. Nothing moves fast in Mexico, as you can imagine.
Hmm.
But yeah, we felt very safe in our decision.
Right. Yeah, this is
Mhm.
why I've stayed out of that area, Mexico and South. I like things done quickly. I think my business
Yeah, it's
values
it's not
and
quick.
speed of operation is just completely different than that culture.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hey, you're kind of saying that with your own actions. You're going to the States instead of doing more.
100%. Yep.
Very, very
Yep.
cool.
Exactly.
Now, something that I've always worked on is just understanding myself
Hmm.
and what I'm willing to do. Like, for example, I've said many times on the show, like, let me start off with there's a Warren Buffett quote that I always lean on and I explain to every investor when they're early on in their journey. It was actually a question posed by Tim Ferriss to Warren Buffett. It was
Hmm.
along the lines of, I have $1 million in cash, I want to invest it, but I'm really busy with what I really enjoy doing. For Tim Ferriss at the time, it was his podcast, it was startup businesses, being angel investors, those sorts of things. And his point was, I don't have time to be a professional stock person.
Right.
Warren's response was, if you're not willing to invest 15 hours a week researching stocks, then put it in like the S&P 500 index fund, a cheap one with low fees, and
Hmm.
go back to your day job, right? Go back
Hmm.
to your family, right? And so I give the same analogy for real estate investing. If you're not willing to invest at least 15 hours a week in your real estate business, you are thus an amateur, a passive investor. Go do something simple, be happy with market returns, go back to living your life, go back to your day job,
Hmm.
right? And I'd argue for real estate, you need more than 15 hours because of all the on-site work required, all the on-site visits required. Like earlier, you talked about having to go to like investing in Edmonton. Once
Yeah.
in a while, you need to go on site, right?
Yeah.
For my
Yeah.
own clients, who lived an hour away from their properties in Hamilton, if they had a major renovation going on, my advice to them was one site visit a week,
Hmm.
right? You have to
Yeah,
make
for
sure the rentals
sure.
are getting done, right? So we're well over 15 hours a week,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. And I think that the the people that have no problem with that 15 hours a week, that are ready to get gritty and do the hard thing and
Mm-hmm,
things like that, they're the ones who are going to be successful, because it's not passive. It takes work, whether you're
mm-hmm.
analyzing deals or doing a site visit or vetting a contractor. Like all of it, in my opinion, is work. Now it's work that I love,
Yeah.
absolutely love. So it doesn't feel like work, right? When I take a look at my corporate career, I mean, I loved my corporate career until I didn't.
Mm-hmm,
And then I was just bored with it and I was over it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And I had a bit of an identity crisis, because I thought, like, oh my gosh, like, at that point, you are the value of the name on your business card. And all of a sudden you have this identity crisis, thinking, I'm walking away from this and I'm going to this. But then you realize that this lights you up so much more and is so much
mm-hmm.
more engaging and exciting, that it just allows you to push your ego aside.
Can you tell us more about what a successful active investor, what kind of traits they have? Because part of what I'm trying to extract from you is because the part of the show is for people to, well, part of the point of the show is to be like a ginormous buffet of
Hmm.
options,
Hmm.
but also part of that is for people to understand themselves,
Hmm.
right? For example, I've had ultra successful workaholic investors on the show.
Yep.
Folks like, for example, my friend Ryan Carr, uh, he for a decade, 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. he was working, right?
Wow.
That was what required for him to be that successful. The point of having someone like on the show is like, are you that, right? If you're
Hmm.
not, then find some level in between here and there that you are,
Hmm.
and be that, right?
I think it's really important for investors to recognize their strengths and weaknesses.
Hmm.
without a doubt. And as soon as you start kind of doing that high value versus low value tasks and recognize where your strengths are, recognize where your weaknesses are, and start outsourcing some of the weaknesses, that's what makes a successful investor. Because you can't do it all, right? I look at these large corporations that I used to work for, and they had an accounting department, and they had a marketing department, and they had an
Hmm.
operations department, and they had a customer retention department. You are that for your entire business.
Hmm.
And there's no way we can be really good at everything.
Hmm.
So I think recognizing the high value versus the low value is what makes you successful, and then
Hmm.
outsourcing that low value to get support on it.
I always remember one of my lessons from watching the Apprentice, Donald Trump
Hmm.
show, the
Yeah.
first season, was
Yeah.
the gentleman. His name is Bill. The gentleman who
Okay.
won was the
Hmm.
only one I thought on the show that was strong in almost every area of business,
No,
like
interesting.
HR, people, sales,
Hmm.
marketing, operations.
Hmm.
A lot. But the gentleman he lost, the gentleman who came second place, was a salesperson.
Mm.
And no fault of him. He was brilliant at what his special
Yeah.
skill was, but he lacked operational skill. Right.
Yep.
And my point is that there are those. And that was the entire show. There was only one who I felt
Wow.
was strong in all areas of business.
Yeah,
So that does exist out there.
it does for
It's
sure.
just that if you're not, I think people need to recognize within that they're not all those things, and need
Hmm.
to be able to backfill those areas, either outsource, partner, whatnot.
Yep.
Because if we look at who failed out, who's in the media and who failed, a lot of them were brilliant social media influencers, whatnot,
Hmm.
great at raising money,
Yep.
couldn't execute an actual portfolio,
Yep.
right? And they didn't see that. Like they had a blind spot they didn't see.
Hmm.
I would argue you and I would see it
Yeah.
though.
I mean, the reason I do only would do work one to one is because it's vulnerable. And when you tear apart your business, yeah, it's vulnerable. It does not feel good all the time.
Hmm.
And so I don't do anything group. I just do one to one because yeah, we're gonna get into the nitty gritty of it all, and we're gonna peel back the layers and see where you're sitting.
Hmm. Yeah, because your clientele is typically there has to be high margin in order to afford staff and to be able to delegate to.
Yeah, yes, you do need to have cash flow in your business for sure, but you also
Hmm.
need to know if you have cash flow in your, as well, right? So that's another thing. But I do also love the fact that there are so many fractional positions coming available, fractional CFOs, fractional marketing people, VAs that you can hire. Like you can actually bring people on for a relatively affordable cost. If you
Hmm.
get really clear on what that person needs to do, they'll be able to execute efficiently.
Can you give us like a working example that you're working with someone now who's doing these sorts of things using fractional sources, VAs, whatnot?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got clients that a couple different clients. One client has realized that they can't do all the site visiting. Like you were just talking about, you got a development project going on, you need to start outsourcing that. And so we take a look at the site visits as a lower value task than, say, the capital raising. And so this person can go do a site visit as long as you've created the standard operating procedure and a list of things that that person needs to go through the
Hmm.
way that you would do it. Then
Hmm.
that person now does the site visits,
Hmm.
and we have hired that person. They have ramped up their hours. They were trained them accordingly to the first 12 weeks of training.
Hmm.
That person is now up and running in the business, reports back through the project management
Hmm.
software
Hmm.
to the owner. The owner stays high level.
Hmm.
It's really efficient.
Brilliant. Now,
Yeah.
now, my first thought is like I think about like Epic Alliance and all the folks who invested in Saskatoon and did no. You don't have to go like I wouldn't have flown out. My top of
Hmm.
mind, I would have hired a home inspector and go look at it.
Hmm.
Right? I don't need to explain to them what to look for.
Yeah.
Right? I pay
Yeah.
you, you protect my interests, go look at the property.
Hmm. Yeah.
And if they
You're
see a
the
half
expert at
burnt down
that.
house, like this
Let
checks
me
a
know
lot of
about it.
boxes. Windows are
Yeah.
boarded up. That's not a good thing.
Not a good
Doesn't
sign,
suit
not
fire code or
habitable.
city code. Like, oh, really? That's what it's like. Okay.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah, like I said, we've got these development projects going on in Edmonton. And actually, one of our shareholders has actually decided to move out to Edmonton to be boots on the ground and see the project every week and
Hmm.
really learn the process. Right? They're
Hmm.
really investing in their own education, which is incredible.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, I've spent a lot of time around entrepreneurs. I think it's interesting to see some people are in it for the money. Some people
Hmm.
are in it passionately, whatever business. This is
Hmm.
across everything, not just real estate.
Yeah.
Some people are really like their industry. right? I have a friend
Mm-hmm.
who has dozens of painters on staff, and he loves house painting,
Mm, okay.
right? And I know some people who are just in that business because it makes money,
Yeah.
right? What are you seeing among your entrepreneur clients
As far as like different industries, you mean?
in terms of not so much industry, but what is it that drives them?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Um,
Because if you're not driven, you're going to be doomed.
it's 100% true. I mean, we talk often on coaching calls around the peaks and the troughs of entrepreneurship because it's not a straight line, right? Like it goes way high, way low. I mean, yeah, what drives them is the internal burn for success for themselves. Yes, I mean, I've got clients that are building safe, affordable, amazing homes for people. I've got other clients that are building beautiful dream homes for people. I've got other clients who are working in immigration, and get driven by the fact they're helping someone achieve their Canadian dreams.
Mhm.
And so a lot of people have that internal burn themselves, but most of them are just motivated for their own success. Sure, it's the benefit is that you provide housing for people and stuff too, but I think a lot of these people just have that internal burn, that A-type driving,
Mhm.
that they are committed to their own success.
Mhm. I think that's the ultimate when you like making money and that's part of your drive, and you're also in something that helps people. And if assuming that's part of your drive.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I used to affect change for thousands of people through the work that I did in the operating room, as far as reducing surgical site infections and preparing people for surgery in a safe way. But I feel more impactful now working with one small business owner, helping them to make their dream come true than I did when I worked for thousands of people, making surgery safer.
Sounds like you could do good work both places.
Yeah. No, I'm good. I'm good on the corporate for right now.
I'm in an office condo, right? And I met a
Yeah.
gentleman who has an office across the laneway from me. And I asked him, "What do you do?" He goes, "Oh, I'm a counselor for leaders of churches." I'm like, those people are among the closest to God. How come they need help? And what he told me was that these folks put so much effort into the work that he actually works on them with their typically their marriage relationships because they put so
Mm,
much of themselves into their work that when
I
they
see
get
that.
home they're just done.
Yeah.
They're tapped out. They don't really have anything else to contribute in terms of relationship building, right? Back home. My point is where I'm
Yeah.
trying to get to is what kind of blind spots do you see within the entrepreneur between the business and within business owners?
Boundaries. People have trouble setting boundaries. Might be
That-
something that you've been through.
oh, Cherry gives me shit about like she's posted on social media where like we're at Home Depot on date night
Yeah.
because we need materials for a rental project somewhere.
Yeah. Yep. Boundaries, right? Like we really struggle with boundaries because so much of our life and our work is woven into one.
Yeah.
And we have that internal drive for success. Your partner has that internal drive for success. And so it just gets automatically pushed in. And I think your point on the counselor is a great point because you give so much of yourself to others that often we don't leave time for the other things that are actually more important because you're just at the end of the day so beat. I think Jesse it says it the best, and he says, what does he say? He says, "I will never be too tired for my kids." So if my
Hmm.
kids want to throw a football at the end of the day, even though I've worked a full shift, full day, like whatever it is that he's done that day, he's like, I will find the energy to do it. And it's a good reminder for us to be like, oh yeah, because often we do get wrapped up. Well, I forgot to put boundaries in today. I worked for 12 hours
Hmm.
and I'm super excited about the project, but now my kids need my attention, but I'm also really tired. And
Hmm.
so I like that take of thinking, oh yeah, right. Just a good reminder to set your priorities straight.
He's got energy for days because he runs ultra marathons.
Oh
So.
yeah, he's got energies for days. And because he only eats fruit until noon.
Does he still?
As far as I know, I
Oh,
haven't seen a social
wow.
media post updating that. I don't know.
Oh, I don't get how he gets enough calories.
I don't know. He's a riot though. We love following him.
Because
Yeah.
if you ever hug the guy, he's very substantial. Like he's got lots of muscle on him.
Oh
So
yeah.
for the amount of calories he from what I don't know exactly what he eats, but just face
Yeah.
value what he eats, like, I don't see how he gets enough calories to sustain himself. But,
Yeah.
but
I'm
again,
not
there's always
sure.
special folks out there. There's always special folks. Now you
Yeah.
mentioned partners. Now I think that's another area that a lot of entrepreneurs, especially folks who are in the media, who are for all the wrong reasons, have screwed up on.
Hmm.
What makes a good partnership?
It's a great question. I
And that can be
think,
many things. That can be romantic. Well, like in my case, my business partner is my romantic partner too.
yeah, yeah,
But
same.
sure, you answer however you like.
Yeah, for sure. I think that what makes a good partnership, um, people with aligned values and goals,
Hmm.
without a doubt. Clear communication is a must. And I think going to the other person when things like, let's use the example of a project, right? Maybe a project timeline has been significantly delayed due to some other reason. Um, the communication and how you navigate that will set your partnership up for success or failure. And I don't see enough partnerships in good communication with each other, respecting each other, going together when times are tough.
If they can't get together when times are tough, then they're doomed
They're
for
going to crumble.
failure. Yeah.
Yeah, not all properties and not all developments are success stories, right? Some of them are, there's bumps along the way, there's hiccups due to things that you can't control. Look what happened during COVID with all the backlog of supplies. Like, there's things that happen, right? If you can't communicate during those tough times, then it's going to be a pretty rocky road for you.
What about like skill sets or complementary anything?
Yeah, complementary skill sets are fantastic. I actually have a corporation with 9 shareholders in it, and we all have very divided skill sets. And we kind of etched people into a specific role to begin with, and then they really morphed into their role and picked up additional skill sets along the way. And I think that when we really play into where their strengths are
Hmm.
and take them out of their weaknesses, the company can grow. It's thriving because of it, but because we've gotten really specific on where everyone is excelling.
Hmm.
Hmm.
It
And
seems to be
clear
like
goals.
it seems to be a bit of a debate in that area as well. Like, should people work on their weaknesses or just play to their strengths? Like, for example, Cherry and I belong to the same nonprofit board. She,
Yeah.
of course, is the finance chair.
Mm.
I'm in the integration chair, so
Yeah.
my role is more for onboarding new people, new members
Yep.
to our organization.
Hmm.
We're both in our strengths. We've just both discussed, planned for being in areas that really put us out of our comfort zone.
Hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's merit and perks to both sides, to be honest. I think both sides you can excel in time if you build the systems and things, but I also kind of feel like depends on where you're at in your business, right? I am, like you said before, I've got a lot of things going on. I'm busy. It's not the time for me to play into my weaknesses right now. It's the time for me to focus on my strengths so that my businesses can grow exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there's maybe an ebb and flow of when you say, hey, you know what, this is an area that I am not good at. I'm going to start nurturing this area right now because I want to get better at it. And there's other times where you're like, you know what, I just need to focus on the things that I'm really strong at, and I'm going to focus on those. So I think there's a time and a place for all of it. I do like working on weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
I do it in other areas of my life all the time. But as far as the business development stuff goes, I'm in an area right now where I'm just focusing on strengths.
Now, we you touched on it earlier, and I think it's a common issue: is how should business owners, entrepreneurs allocate their time? And where I'm going with that is, for example, I'll see typically newer folks to
Hmm.
the industry be really ambitious.
Yep.
I'm going to develop this 40-acre property an hour, 2 hours away from my home. Maybe it's not that many. Maybe they're going to build 30 houses on a
Yep.
small lot, right? Hour, 2 hours away from my home. Never done it before. I have a full-time job, nine, eight, like an 8 to 6 type of job. I have kids.
Yep.
Do you see these types of things?
Yeah, without a doubt. I often, to be honest, I often see people start smaller than they really should. Like, I'm going to buy one property this year when in actual fact they could buy two. And so I do often see people start like, we're talking like the mom and pops, the people who are just starting, right? I see them play a bit smaller than they actually can, as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to going too big, too fast. Although I do also talk to entrepreneurs. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy my first deal and it's going to be a 32 unit build and I'm going to do affordable housing. I'm like, okay. Have you vetted any contractors before? Do you know how long it's going to take to do
Yeah.
surveying and rezoning? And
Yeah. I
so
built one
there,
house before.
yeah, there is a bit of that, but to be honest, I think it's in general more people paying smaller than they could be.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So you should buy two houses in Whistler instead of one.
Oh man, if you can buy two houses in Whistler, like you're doing great. You
You
are
should
doing
retire
great.
already. Come on, retire while
Yeah,
you're
you can
ahead.
retire. I mean, you can't rent them out, but it's funny. Someone had made a post on a Facebook page the other day about Whistler rentals, and they had a picture of a beautiful home, and it said $21,000 for the month, for this outstanding home. It was 4 bedrooms, 4.5 bath. This
Mhm.
home is probably a, I don't know, $6 million home. Like it was gorgeous. And of course, everyone was commenting, just slamming the post, right? Like, oh yeah, I'll rent it with me and my 40 friends, and maybe that would be semi-affordable. And I'm like, you arrogant people have no clue. Even if they bought that home 10 years ago, the $21,000 a month, like, is not even going to touch, the between the mortgage payments and the cost of keeping that up, and the heat with those scouring, those super high 30-foot ceilings in the winter, the electric baseboard heat that we have in Whistler,
Mhm.
ridiculously hundreds of dollars,
Excuse
even
me? Your electric
over a thousand
baseboard?
dollars. Yeah, we don't have a lot of gas in Whistler. It's mainly baseboard heat because most of those are all 80s builds. So
Couldn't get a pipeline built? This is Canada.
most
Well,
heat in
that's
Whistler
actually kind of a funny thing
is
to
all
say.
electric. So it would just like, it just kind of made me shake. I didn't comment because I'm not into getting into debates like that, but I was like, the cost of those properties, the cost to maintain and keep them, and yeah, the nightly rate in Whistler during the winter, yeah, $21,000 actually seems like it's on par.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so in the example you gave, you thought folks were playing too small, buying one property versus
Yeah.
two. What market did you have in mind when you were talking to that?
Oh, I mean, that could be anywhere from Ontario to Alberta to the United States. These are all just, different
Right, right, right,
leads and things like that I talk to often. And so I actually see, like I said, I see more of people being conservative and playing really small,
right,
as
right.
opposed to thinking, hey, like, how could I buy two properties this year? How could
Yeah,
I buy three properties this year? And thinking a little bit bigger, expanding their thoughts.
got it. Now I'm gonna have a guess that you helped shape the Real Estate Resilience Summit. It's
Yeah.
called the Business Edition. Tell me more
Might have a
about it.
little bit to do with that. Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me more.
I attended the Real Estate Resilience Summit last year. Also, was able to share the stage with Elizabeth, which was fantastic. Elizabeth and I have since collaborated on this with the addition of Victoria Cluney, which is absolutely amazing. And we have really taken a look, like we dug so deep on this, you guys, for this year. What do investors need? And so we took it based on what Elizabeth hears in the field, what I hear in the field, what Victoria hears in the field, and we built it around what we think investors need right now.
Hmm.
They need information on how to get to the US because that is a hot topic right now. They need information on how to run their portfolio as a business. They need information on how to continue to grow their marketing, and really understand their brand and their branding. And so we took a look at all of the topics that were kind of hot topics, and we brought this all-star panel of speakers. There you are right there. All-star panel of speakers to really help people with where we felt what they needed over the past year. And this is based on what we have heard in, yeah, what we've heard in the industry. So
Oh, I
yeah,
didn't know.
I
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
go ahead.
No, I didn't know. I didn't know Amanda McAllister was involved with GoBundance.
Yeah, I think I can't remember what her role is off the top of my head, but yeah.
Super cool. I actually modeled a small mastermind group of my own after GoBundance.
Oh yeah. Oh, fantastic.
We couldn't afford their trip budget, so we called it Ham Abundance,
Oh,
as in Hamilton
Hamilton.
Abundance. Yeah, and then there's the
Oh, that's
running
funny.
joke we'd only do things we could find on Groupon.
Oh gosh, that's funny.
Because the reality of the thing is that investors, even successful ones, are quite frugal.
Yeah, yeah. Well, especially even right now, right? There's less margins for people to play with and things. So
Way less, way less. So
yeah,
tell me,
so we're really excited about this year. We really think it's, coming to the market at the right time. I actually love the digital summit. I've got young kids. It allows me to actually be fully involved and invested in a conference without the travel, the expenses, things like that.
yeah, and also keeps the cost down.
It keeps the cost way down. right? Way down, right? I attended the multifamily conference last year too, and you can attend this for just a couple $100. The other thing we did is we also brought a lot of US speakers in because we wanted to show some new faces to people.
Oh yeah, some big Canadian faces too, like Daniel
Big,
Foch.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Big Canadian faces, big US faces, new faces for people. And we just wanted to have a little bit of a fresh take on it.
I've been following Daniel Kong since the pandemic
Oh,
on his
okay.
Instagram. Yeah,
Yeah, right on.
and he's in Hawaii,
He's in Hawaii. Yeah,
and he has
it's
got a
great.
very significant size portfolio.
He does. He really does. I can't remember how many doors as of right now. And then, we've got David Richter with that fractional CFO title as well. And just kind of really taking a look at the business finances of your operations.
So, who would benefit from coming to the Real Estate Resilience Summit?
Any intermediate to advanced business owner or real estate investor.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really designed it with two themes in mind, both
Right.
businesses, so just general entrepreneurs as well as real estate investors as well.
Like you and I were talking before we started recording, is there's very few people in Ontario, BC, or Quebec who are adding to the long-term rental portfolio. Take Victoria Cluney, for example. Like she's focusing on like manufacturing tiny homes
Yeah.
and tiny home community. Like
Yep.
that's more of a business than traditional long-term rental investing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And like my good friend Andrew Hines, like I don't think he owns a long-term rental anymore in Ontario. He's
Yeah.
focused largely on his recreational properties near Tobermory,
Hmm.
right? It's all short-term rental.
Well, I
So
think it shows people that there is opportunity out there still, but you need to get a lot more creative.
more creative, but also my point is like people aren't putting money into long-term rentals
Yeah.
in Canada other than outside of Alberta.
Yep.
Apologies to folks in Winnipeg. I'm sure there's some good stuff out over there as well, but generally just what's most talked about is generally Alberta for Canada.
100%. I mean, we just take a look at BC alone, right? Like it's near impossible to bring rentals to the market right now. Sure, I'd love to provide more housing in Whistler. We have a massive housing crisis and we've had it for 20 years since I worked there as a ski instructor 20 years ago. Um, it's been like that forever, but there's no opportunity for more housing unless it's Whistler Housing Authority that's stepping in to help.
Right. And it's largely a function of NIMBYism. I was in
Yeah, the
Guelph
swing is too high.
I was in Guelph just recently, and my friends from Guelph were telling me that the city bylaws don't allow anything taller than a certain building that's already there. Like, they're that restrictive. Like,
Right. Yeah.
if you want density, you generally need to go tall, but they're restricting
Yeah.
density.
Yep.
Yeah.
Restricting growth in general. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great conference for any of those intermediate to advanced, both business owners as well as real estate investors. And we are really excited about bringing it to everyone.
And where can folks get more information on the Real Estate Resilience Summit?
Yeah, you can jump right over to the website that you're on right now, realestateresilience.ca. Grab your ticket there. Or you can
Fantastic.
also find us on Instagram if you have questions.
And where can people learn more about your coaching?
Yeah, you can jump over to meghanhubner.com. It's meghanhubner.com. There's my website popping up right now. And I'm most active on Instagram
Fantastic. Oh, and what's your Instagram handle?
at Meghan Hubner.
Easy peasy.
Yeah, exactly.
So thanks so much
Yeah.
for doing this, Megan.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for having me so much, Erwin. I appreciate it.
I can't wait to follow along your trip homeschooling your kids.
Oh my gosh, yeah, so many things on the go, but it's going to be good. I actually received an email in my inbox from someone that I follow on capital raising the other day, and she said, if you're feeling overwhelmed, the overwhelm is the abundance of everything you once dreamed of. And I was like, oh, it hit so hard. I was like, that's true.
It's where you wanted to be.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, it's not always easy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you guys have been entrepreneurs for a long time, so you get that.
Oh yeah, it's been fun. But we're very grateful for our real estate portfolio because without it, we wouldn't be able to afford to live the way we do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. Fantastic. Well, thanks. Thanks for having me despite being a cold guest.
Megan, we are in the middle of a real estate winter, and
Yeah.
real GDP per capita per Benjamin Tall, chief deputy economist of CIBC, we are in a recession based on real GDP per capita. The
Mhm.
Americans look like they may vote a recession. They may go into a recession. Who knows? Do you have any final thoughts for the listener? If they're afraid, if they're excited, what do you have any final words?
Yeah, I mean, my final thought is just to make strategic decisions based on research that you have done, not just recommendations from other people. I do think that, really leaning into going with your gut after you've made those decisions, and you know, stop operating in so much fear. I tell people all the time, stay with your horse blinders on, stay in your lane. Don't look don't look around to what everyone else is doing. Take a look at what you can accomplish in this next little
Mm-hmm.
bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's really easy to either diminish our success or say that we can't achieve the 100 doors that so and so has done, right? Even if that's not even your goal. So I
Mm-hmm.
really say just like stay in your lane, stay with your head down, stay focused on your own goal, take in the news to a certain point so you know what's happening in the economy, but don't let it completely stifle any decision that you're making, right? There are still opportunities out there. It's just a matter of uncovering them.
Right. And a lot of the best businesses are born out of recession. So
100%. Yeah, 100%.
fantastic. All right. Thank you again, Megan, for doing this.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. If you want to learn how to invest in real estate from scratch, my team teaches beginners how to use the #1 investment strategy that I personally use in a virtual free training class every month. Go to investortraining.ca/YouTube to register for our next class. The link's also in the description as well. I publish at least 2 to 3 videos a week here, so subscribe if you want to keep learning from seasoned investors like myself and my guests. And if you're just starting out, feel free to ask questions and comment below, and I do the best to answer each of those comments and questions myself. Again, if you're ready to learn the nitty-gritty about real estate investing from a professional investor, register for our next virtual class. That's at investortraining.ca/YouTube. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next video.